Have you ever poured your energy into a relationship or task, only to feel like your efforts went unnoticed? That sense of being undervalued can be deeply frustrating, leaving you questioning your worth or wondering if you're doing something wrong. But what if this feeling isn't about others? What if it's about how you're approaching the situation? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has stood the test of time, offers profound insights into this very struggle. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This wisdom reminds us that while we can't control how others treat us, we can control how we respond and, more importantly, how we view ourselves. In this video, we'll explore 25 Stoic rules specifically designed to help you avoid being taken for granted. These principles aren't just theoretical, they're practical tools rooted in centuries of wisdom, empowering you to reclaim your sense of self-worth and navigate relationships with confidence and clarity. Let's dive into these timeless rules and discover how they can transform the way you approach being undervalued. Rule 1 is a foundational principle in Stoicism: know your worth. At its core, Stoicism teaches that your value is intrinsic, not something that hinges on external validation or the opinions of others. This idea might sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful when applied. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, your self-worth isn't determined by the way others treat you. It's rooted in your ability to focus on what's within your control, your character, your actions, and your mindset. This shift in perspective can be transformative. Consider the example of a professional who felt constantly overlooked at work. Instead of seeking approval from their peers or waiting for recognition, they began to focus on their own efforts and integrity. By internalizing their self-worth, they stopped waiting for others to validate them and started valuing themselves. Over time, this quiet confidence not only improved their work but also changed how others perceived them. So, here's a question to reflect on. When was the last time you let someone else define your worth? Recognizing your intrinsic value is the first step to ensuring you're never taken for granted. Do you often find yourself saying yes when you really mean no? It's a common pattern, especially for those of us who want to be helpful or avoid conflict. But Stoicism teaches that setting clear boundaries isn't just about protecting your time, it's an act of self-respect and discipline. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, emphasized the importance of saying no to preserve your inner peace. He believed that every yes we give to something trivial is a no to something meaningful. Think about it. When you overcommit, you're not just stretching yourself thin, you're sending a message that your own needs and priorities are secondary. Take Sarah, for example, a project manager who used to feel overwhelmed by her workload. She realized that her habit of saying yes to every request left her drained and resentful. Inspired by Stoic principles, she began setting clear boundaries at work. Instead of taking on extra tasks without question, she started evaluating what aligned with her goals and politely declining what didn't. Over time, her colleagues began to respect her time more, and she found herself feeling more focused and fulfilled. So, here's a challenge for you. What's one boundary you need to set today? Whether it's saying no to an unnecessary task or carving out time for yourself, remember that boundaries aren't selfish, they're essential for maintaining your peace and clarity. Detachment doesn't mean shutting yourself off or becoming indifferent. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of things you can't control. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly when he said, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." This simple yet profound idea highlights the power of choosing how you respond to situations, especially when it feels like others are undervaluing you. Think of it as a mental shift. Instead of letting someone else's actions dictate your peace, you focus on your own reactions and values. Cato the Younger, a Stoic figure, embodied this principle in one of history's most dramatic moments. When Julius Caesar's forces surrounded him, threatening his life, Cato calmly continued reading a philosophical text, refusing to let fear or anger disrupt his inner calm. This wasn't indifference, it was a deliberate choice to remain centered in the face of chaos. How can you apply this today? Start by asking yourself, where are you placing your emotional energy? Are you letting someone else's opinion or behavior define your happiness? Detaching from the need for approval doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop allowing others to control your emotional state. It's a practice, and like any skill, it takes time to develop. But with each step, you'll find yourself less swayed by external judgments and more anchored in your own sense of worth. Stoicism teaches that relying on yourself is the ultimate form of freedom. It's a bold idea, especially in a world where we're often encouraged to lean on others for validation, support, or even happiness. But the Stoics believed that true strength comes from within, from cultivating the ability to meet life's challenges on your own terms. Epictetus warned against dependency, saying, "He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have." In other words, if you're constantly looking outward for fulfillment, you'll never feel truly satisfied. Self-reliance doesn't mean isolating yourself or refusing help when it's needed. Rather, it's about developing the inner resources to handle whatever comes your way. Take the story of a young entrepreneur who started a business with little support. At first, she struggled, constantly seeking approval and advice from others. But when she shifted her focus to trusting her instincts and honing her skills, her business began to thrive. By embracing self-reliance, she not only gained confidence but also established a reputation as someone who could stand firm in her decisions. So, here's a thought to consider. In what areas of your life do you need to rely more on yourself? Whether it's making decisions, handling challenges, or simply trusting your own judgment, building self-reliance is a powerful step toward ensuring you're never taken for granted. What if you stopped clinging to people's opinions of you? It's a question that challenges our deepest insecurities, but it's also a gateway to profound freedom. Stoicism introduces the idea of impermanence, the understanding that everything in life, including people's perceptions of us, is temporary. Seneca once wrote, "Life, if well lived, is long enough." This isn't just about mortality, it's a reminder that the things we often fixate on, like approval or validation, are fleeting. When we internalize this truth, we start to see how much energy we waste trying to control what others think. Consider the story of a musician who once obsessed over every critique and compliment. She would modify her art to please her audience, only to feel empty afterward. Then she discovered the Stoic practice of embracing impermanence. She realized that her work, like everything else, was subject to change, and that seeking universal approval was an endless, exhausting pursuit. By letting go of the need for constant validation, she found a deeper sense of purpose in her craft. Her work became more authentic, and ironically, it resonated even more with her audience. So, how can embracing impermanence help you avoid being taken for granted? When you stop clinging to others' opinions, you reclaim your time, energy, and focus. You stop shaping your life around what's fleeting and start living in alignment with what truly matters. It's not about indifference, it's about freedom. Freedom to be yourself, to act with integrity, and to let go of what you can't control. Stoicism teaches that your power lies in what you can control. This principle, known as the dichotomy of control, is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are within our power while others are not." Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, and aversion. In short, whatever is our own doing. In simpler terms, you can control your thoughts, actions, and reactions, but you can't control how others perceive or treat you. This distinction is crucial when it comes to avoiding being undervalued. Instead of wasting energy trying to change others' opinions or behaviors, focus on what's within your reach, your mindset, your effort, and your integrity. Take Alex, for instance, a teacher who felt unappreciated by his students and colleagues. He spent months trying to win their approval, only to feel more frustrated and drained. Then he discovered the dichotomy of control. Alex began redirecting his energy toward improving his teaching methods and staying true to his values. Over time, this shift not only boosted his confidence but also earned him the respect he'd been seeking. So here's a question to ponder. What's one thing you're trying to control that's outside your power? By letting go of what you can't control and focusing on what you can, you reclaim your agency and create space for positive change. Have you ever felt misunderstood because you weren't clear? Maybe you've tried to express a need or set a boundary, only to find it brushed aside or ignored. It's a frustrating experience, but it's also one that Stoicism can help you navigate. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Let your words be purposeful, say what you mean and mean what you say." This might sound straightforward, but in practice, it's a skill that requires intention and discipline. Clear communication isn't just about getting your point across. It's about asserting your value and ensuring your needs are understood. Take the example of a team leader who often felt her ideas were overlooked in meetings. She realized her tendency to downplay her suggestions or speak hesitantly was part of the problem. Inspired by Stoic principles, she began preparing concise, direct statements before meetings and practiced delivering them with confidence. The result? Her contributions were not only heard but respected. This shift didn't happen overnight, but it transformed how she was perceived and how she felt about herself. So, how can you communicate your needs more clearly today? Start small. Identify one area where you felt misunderstood and think about how you can express yourself more directly. Remember, clarity isn't just about speaking, it's about ensuring your voice matters. Why do you need others to validate your worth? It's a question that can feel unsettling, but it's one that gets to the heart of what it means to live authentically. Stoicism teaches us that seeking external validation is a trap, an endless cycle of chasing approval that can never truly fulfill us. Seneca put it bluntly when he said, "The applause of the crowd is the greatest deception." In other words, when you rely on others to affirm your worth, you're handing over your sense of self to forces you can't control. Stoicism, instead, directs us to focus on internal virtue, our character, integrity, and actions as the true measure of our value. Consider the story of a young artist who spent years tailoring her work to fit trends and please critics. She chased recognition, believing it would bring her happiness, but it only left her feeling empty. When she discovered Stoicism, she began creating art that resonated with her own values and vision, regardless of external opinions. Over time, she found a deep sense of peace and fulfillment, not because others approved, but because she was living in alignment with her true self. So, here's something to reflect on. What would change if you stopped seeking others' approval? Imagine the freedom of knowing your worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion. Imagine the energy you'd reclaim, the creativity you'd unlock, and the authenticity you'd embody. This is the power of rejecting external validation. It's not just a Stoic principle, it's a path to liberation. Gratitude is powerful, but it shouldn't make you dependent. This might seem like a paradoxical idea, but it's one that Stoicism navigates with clarity and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this balance when he said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." His words remind us to appreciate what we have while also staying grounded in our self-respect. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, isn't about diminishing your own worth or allowing others to exploit your kindness. It's about recognizing the good in life without letting it overshadow your own needs and boundaries. Think about someone like Maya, a nurse who dedicated herself to her patients with immense compassion. She found joy in helping others but realized she was sacrificing her own well-being in the process. Inspired by Stoic teachings, she began practicing gratitude in a way that honored her limits. She expressed appreciation for her work while also setting boundaries to protect her energy and time. This shift didn't make her less caring, it made her more effective both for herself and for those she served. So, how can you practice gratitude without losing yourself? Start by acknowledging the good in your life, but also checking in with yourself. Are you giving so much that you're neglecting your own needs? Gratitude and self-respect aren't opposites, they're two sides of the same coin. When practiced together, they create a harmony that enriches your life without depleting it. How often do you find yourself physically in a conversation but mentally elsewhere? It's a common experience in today's fast-paced, distraction-filled world, but Stoicism offers a powerful antidote: presence. Epictetus once said, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." This isn't just about paying attention, it's about fully engaging in the moment, bringing your whole self to your actions and interactions. When you're present, you're not just showing up, you're asserting your value and making it clear that you're not someone to be overlooked. Think about a waiter who takes an order while scrolling on their phone versus one who listens intently, makes eye contact, and responds thoughtfully. The difference isn't just in the service, it's in how they're perceived. The same principle applies to your relationships and work. By being fully present, you demonstrate respect for others and, just as importantly, for yourself. It's a subtle but powerful way to set the tone for how you're treated. So, how can you cultivate this presence in your daily life? Start small. Put your phone away during conversations, actively listen without planning your response, and focus on the task at hand rather than multitasking. These might seem like minor changes, but over time they can transform how you're seen and how you see yourself. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy rock in your pocket. It slows you down, weighs on your spirit, and does absolutely nothing to the person who wronged you. Seneca once said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." This Stoic insight reminds us that resentment doesn't punish the other person. It punishes us. It keeps us stuck in the past, replaying hurts instead of moving forward. Letting go doesn't mean excusing someone's behavior or pretending it didn't happen. It means choosing to release the emotional grip it has on you so you can reclaim your peace. Take the story of James, a business owner who felt betrayed when a partner cheated him out of a deal. For years, he carried that anger, letting it seep into his relationships and work. But when he embraced the Stoic practice of forgiveness, he realized he wasn't just freeing his former partner, he was freeing himself. By releasing that resentment, he found clarity, creativity, and a renewed sense of purpose. So here's a question to reflect on. What resentment are you holding onto that's weighing you down? It might be a past slight, a broken promise, or even a moment of self-criticism. Whatever it is, consider this: forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's about choosing to lighten your load and move forward, unburdened by the weight of the past. Integrity is the foundation of self-respect. It's not just about doing the right thing when someone's watching. It's about aligning your actions with your deepest values, even when no one else is there to see it. Stoicism places immense importance on this alignment, teaching that living with integrity is the essence of living in accordance with nature. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. This call to action isn't about perfection. It's about consistency, showing up as your authentic self day after day, regardless of external pressures. Consider the story of a young entrepreneur who faced a critical decision: cut corners on a product launch to meet a tight deadline or delay the launch to ensure quality. Choosing integrity, he took the harder path, delaying the launch to deliver a product he could stand behind. While the immediate cost was high, the long-term gain was even greater. His reputation for honesty and reliability earned him loyal customers and immense respect. So here's a question to reflect on. Are your actions aligned with your values? Integrity isn't just a moral choice, it's a statement of self-respect. When you act with integrity, you send a clear message to the world and to yourself that your principles matter more than convenience or approval. It's a quiet but powerful way to ensure you're never taken for granted. Do you often feel overwhelmed because you've said yes too much? It's an all too common experience, agreeing to tasks, projects, or social engagements out of obligation, only to find yourself stretched thin and stressed. Stoicism offers a remedy for this through the principle of moderation. Epictetus wisely cautioned, if you seek truth, you will not seek to gain a victory by every possible means, and when you have found truth, you need not fear being defeated. What he's saying here is that trying to do everything, trying to be everywhere, is not only impossible but also counterproductive. It dilutes your focus, exhausts your energy, and leaves you unable to give your best to what truly matters. Take the example of a teacher named Rachel who was juggling multiple committees, volunteer roles, and personal obligations. She felt constantly drained and unfulfilled until she applied this Stoic lesson. Rachel began evaluating each commitment based on alignment with her priorities and started saying no to the ones that didn't serve her goals. The result? She regained her energy, improved her work, and found more time for what she truly cared about. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being intentional. So here's a challenge for you. What's one commitment you need to let go of? Whether it's a project, a habit, or even a social obligation, freeing yourself from overcommitment isn't just a relief, it's a step toward reclaiming your focus and peace. Time is your most precious resource. It's the one thing you can't get back, no matter how much effort or money you pour into it. The Stoics understood this deeply, emphasizing that how you spend your time reflects your values and priorities. Seneca, in one of his letters, wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." This isn't about living longer, it's about making the most of the time you have. Imagine a busy executive named Lisa who found herself constantly stuck in meetings that didn't align with her goals. She felt like her days were slipping away, leaving her with little energy for what truly mattered. Inspired by Stoic teachings, she began auditing her schedule, cutting out unnecessary commitments, and focusing on high-impact activities. The result, she not only became more productive but also felt a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment. Her reclaimed time became a space for growth, creativity, and deeper connections. So here's a question to reflect on. How can you better protect your time? Start by identifying what truly matters to you, and then evaluate whether your schedule reflects those priorities. Remember, every yes you give to one thing is a no to something else. By valuing your time, you're not just managing your day, you're honoring your life. Assertiveness is often mistaken for aggression, an easy mix-up in a world that sometimes equates quietness with weakness or confidence with confrontation. But Stoicism offers a different perspective, one that balances strength with serenity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." What he's pointing to here is the power of calm assertiveness, standing firm in your truth without letting emotions like anger or frustration take the lead. It's not about dominating others or proving a point. It's about communicating your needs with clarity and respect. Take the example of a manager named Clara, who often felt her ideas were dismissed in team meetings. Instead of reacting with frustration or forcing her voice, she began preparing her points in advance and presenting them with calm confidence. She didn't raise her voice or demand attention. She simply spoke with purpose and backed her ideas with logic. Over time, her colleagues began to listen more intently, not because she pressured them, but because her assertiveness commanded respect. This is the Stoic way, assertiveness rooted in inner calm, not outer force. So, here's a question to consider. How can you be more assertive in a way that aligns with your values, whether it's in a conversation, a decision, or a boundary you need to set? Remember that assertiveness isn't about being loud, it's about being clear, grounded, and true to yourself. Think about this. When was the last time you paused to reflect on your day? In a world that moves at breakneck speed, taking even a few minutes to look inward can feel like a luxury. But for the Stoics, daily reflection wasn't optional, it was essential. Epictetus, one of the most profound voices in Stoicism, said, "We should examine ourselves every day, for when we do not examine ourselves, we do not progress." This isn't just about thinking back on what happened. It's about actively learning from your experiences, understanding your reactions, and aligning your actions with your values. Consider the story of a young professional who felt constantly overlooked at work. She began a nightly ritual of reflecting on her day, what went well, what didn't, and how she responded to challenges. Over time, this practice helped her spot patterns, like moments when she hesitated to speak up or allowed others to take credit for her ideas. Armed with this self-awareness, she started making small but impactful changes, asserting herself more confidently and setting clearer boundaries. Her colleagues began to see her in a new light, not because she demanded their attention, but because she had taken the time to understand and honor her own worth. So here's an invitation. What's one thing you can learn from today's reflection? Whether it's a moment of courage, a misstep to improve on, or a habit to let go of, daily reflection is a simple yet powerful tool to ensure you're living intentionally, not passively. Complaining only gives away your power. It's a stark truth, but one that Stoicism embraces wholeheartedly. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic thinkers, put it bluntly, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he's saying is that complaining doesn't solve problems, it amplifies them, trapping us in a cycle of negativity and helplessness. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, Stoicism encourages us to shift our energy toward what we can do about it. Take the story of Michael, a sales manager who felt stuck in a job he didn't enjoy. For months, he vented to colleagues about his frustrations, but nothing changed. Then he encountered Stoic philosophy and decided to take a different approach. Instead of complaining, he started identifying specific issues and taking constructive steps to address them. He updated his resume, improved his skills, and eventually landed a role that aligned with his goals. By shifting from complaints to action, Michael didn't just improve his situation, he reclaimed his sense of agency. So here's a challenge for you. What's one thing you complain about that you can take action on instead? Whether it's a minor annoyance or a major frustration, remember this: every complaint is an opportunity to reclaim your power and create change. The choice is yours. Will you stay stuck in the problem or step into the solution? Inner strength is your shield against being taken for granted. It's the quiet power that allows you to stand firm in the face of adversity, to hold your ground when others might expect you to falter. The Stoics understood this deeply, teaching that resilience and mental fortitude are not just virtues but necessities for a life well lived. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, wrote, "You have within you right now, in every situation, the strength to endure and the power to persevere." These words remind us that inner strength isn't something you're born with, it's something you cultivate through practice and intention. Consider the story of Maria, a teacher who faced constant skepticism from her colleagues about her unconventional teaching methods. Rather than letting their doubts shake her, she focused on her passion for education and her belief in her approach. Over time, her students' progress spoke for itself, and her colleagues began to see the value in her methods. Maria's inner strength didn't just help her endure, it helped her thrive. So, here's a question to reflect on. How can you cultivate more inner strength today? Maybe it's through daily affirmations, practicing resilience in small challenges, or simply reminding yourself of your own capabilities. Whatever it is, remember this: the stronger you become on the inside, the less likely you are to be overlooked or undervalued on the outside. Inner strength isn't just a defense, it's a declaration of your worth. Do your actions align with your words? It's a question worth asking, because consistency is more than just a habit, it's a statement of integrity. Stoicism teaches that aligning your actions with your beliefs isn't just about making promises, it's about living them. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, said, "First, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be. Then do what you have to do." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that consistency isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up day after day in a way that reflects your values and earns the trust of others. Take the story of Daniel, a fitness coach who struggled to gain credibility early in his career. He realized that while he preached discipline and consistency to his clients, his own routine was erratic. Inspired by Stoic teachings, he began practicing what he preached, showing up at the same time every day, following the plans he created, and staying committed even when motivation waned. Over time, his consistency not only improved his own results, but also earned him the trust and respect of his clients. They saw him as someone who walked the talk, and that authenticity made all the difference. So, here's something to reflect on. Where do you need to be more consistent in your life? Whether it's in your work, relationships, or personal goals, remember that small, steady actions often speak louder than grand intentions. Consistency isn't just a virtue, it's a way to ensure you're never taken for granted. Humility is a virtue, but it shouldn't diminish your worth. This is the delicate balance Stoicism encourages, a humility that doesn't shrink your light but allows you to shine without arrogance. Seneca once said, "He who is humble is exalted, he who exalts himself is humbled." In this, he captures the essence of true humility. It's not about downplaying your strengths or achievements, but about recognizing them without the need for external validation. It's about knowing you're capable without feeling the need to prove it to everyone around you. Consider the story of Emma, a talented artist whose work gained significant attention in her local community. Instead of basking in praise or boasting about her success, she remained grounded, attributing her achievements to hard work and the support of others. But here's the key: she didn't downplay her talent or let others take credit for her efforts. Her humility drew people in, but her quiet confidence ensured she wasn't overlooked or taken for granted. So, how can you practice humility while maintaining your self-worth? Start by acknowledging your strengths without feeling the need to flaunt them. Recognize your achievements, but stay open to growth and learning. Humility, when paired with self-respect, isn't just a virtue, it's a quiet, unshakable power. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself because it's evident in how you carry yourself and treat others. How might your life change if you embrace this balance today? Imagine this: you're working on a project, pouring your heart into it, but every step of the way you're worried about what others might think. Will they like it? Will they criticize it? This constant focus on external opinions can paralyze your progress and hold you back from truly growing. Stoicism offers a powerful alternative: shift your attention inward. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." His words remind us that growth begins with focusing on ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, and our potential rather than seeking validation from others. Take the story of Leo, a young writer who struggled with self-doubt. He spent years tiptoeing around his work, afraid to take risks for fear of judgment. But when he embraced the Stoic principle of focusing on his own growth, everything changed. He started writing for himself, experimenting with new styles and pushing his creative boundaries. Over time, his work became more authentic and impactful, earning him recognition not because he chased it, but because he stopped worrying about it. His growth wasn't about pleasing others, it was about becoming the best version of himself. So, here's a question to reflect on. What's one area of your life where you need to focus on your own growth? Is it your career, your relationships, or maybe even your personal hobbies? Remember, growth isn't about measuring up to someone else's standards, it's about honoring your own journey and becoming the person you're meant to be. Do you feel the need to justify yourself constantly? It's a habit many of us fall into, especially when we're worried about being misunderstood or judged. But Stoicism offers a refreshing perspective on this. Simplicity in communication is not just a skill, it's a form of self-respect. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said it best: know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly. In other words, when you know your worth, you don't need to over-explain or justify your actions. Brevity becomes a reflection of your confidence. Take the example of a project manager named Olivia, who used to spend hours crafting detailed emails to explain her decisions. She thought the extra context would earn her credibility, but instead, it often led to confusion or even skepticism. When she embraced the Stoic principle of simplicity, she started communicating her points clearly and concisely, trusting that her expertise would speak for itself. The result, her colleagues began respecting her decisions more, not because she gave them a mountain of details, but because she conveyed her message with clarity and confidence. So here's a question to reflect on. Where do you over-explain and how can you simplify? Whether it's in conversations, emails, or even your internal dialogue, remember that brevity isn't just about saving time. It's about showing up with the quiet authority of someone who knows their worth. Patience is a Stoic virtue that prevents frustration. It's not just about waiting, it's about maintaining peace and perspective, even when things don't go as planned. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "Time heals what reason cannot." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that patience isn't passive. It's an active choice to trust the process and focus on what's within our control. In relationships, patience can be particularly powerful. Think about a parent learning to navigate their child's teenage years. Instead of reacting to every outburst or disagreement, they choose to step back, listen, and give their child space to grow. Over time, this patience fosters understanding and respect, strengthening their bond. The same principle applies to our own growth. When we're patient with ourselves, we allow room for mistakes and learning, which can lead to deeper self-acceptance and resilience. So, how can you practice more patience in your daily life? Start small. Take a deep breath before responding to frustration. Remind yourself that some things take time, or simply pause to appreciate the progress you've made, however incremental it might seem. Patience isn't just a virtue, it's a way to reclaim your peace and ensure you're never taken for granted. You have more power than you realize. It's a bold statement, but one that Stoicism backs with unwavering confidence. The Stoics believed that true power isn't about controlling the world around you. It's about recognizing the control you have over your own mind and actions. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a practical tool for reclaiming your agency in moments when you feel overlooked or undervalued. Think about someone like Julia, a marketing professional who felt her ideas were constantly dismissed in team meetings. Instead of waiting for others to validate her contributions, she began focusing on her own creativity and expertise. She started presenting her ideas with confidence, backed by research and clarity, and stopped seeking immediate approval. Over time, her colleagues began to see her as a leader, not because she demanded it, but because she owned her power and let it speak for itself. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. You don't need permission to be powerful. So take a moment to reflect. Where have you given away your power, and how can you reclaim it? Whether it's in your work, your relationships, or your personal goals, remember that your strength isn't something others can grant. It's something you already possess. The question is, will you step into it? Are you living in alignment with your true nature? It's a question that cuts to the core of what it means to live authentically. Stoicism teaches us that living according to nature isn't about retreating to the wilderness. It's about understanding and embracing your own essence, your values, and your purpose. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is the essence of living in harmony with nature. It's about aligning your actions with your deepest self, rather than being swayed by external pressures or societal expectations. Take the story of Alex, a corporate lawyer who appeared successful on the outside, but felt a constant sense of emptiness inside. He realized he was living a life shaped by others' expectations, chasing prestige and money instead of what truly resonated with him. Inspired by Stoic teachings, he began to explore his passions, eventually leaving his high-powered job to teach environmental law at a university. This shift wasn't easy, but it brought him a sense of peace and fulfillment he had never experienced before. He wasn't just living, he was thriving because he was living in alignment with his true nature. So, how can you live more authentically? Start by asking yourself, what are the values and passions that define you? Are your daily choices reflecting those truths? Living according to nature isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about taking small, intentional steps to ensure your actions align with who you are at your core. When you do, you'll find not only greater peace, but also a deeper sense of self-respect that ensures you're never taken for granted. Throughout this video, we've explored 25 Stoic rules designed to help you avoid being taken for granted. Each principle, from knowing your worth to embracing impermanence, from setting boundaries to cultivating inner strength, serves as a tool in your personal toolkit. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're actionable steps rooted in centuries of wisdom, meant to empower you in your relationships, work, and daily life. At their core, these rules revolve around three key themes: self-worth, boundaries, and inner strength. They remind us that our value isn't defined by others, but by our own integrity and actions. They teach us that saying no isn't selfish, it's an act of self-respect. And they show us that true strength comes from within, from the ability to remain calm and focused, even in challenging situations. Seneca once said, "Respect yourself and others will respect you." This simple yet profound truth encapsulates the essence of what we've discussed. When you honor your worth, set clear boundaries, and cultivate inner resilience, you create a life where being undervalued becomes the exception, not the rule. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these Stoic rules resonated most deeply? Was it the idea of focusing on what you can control, or perhaps the practice of embracing impermanence? How can you start applying these principles in your own life? Let me know in the comments below. Your insights might inspire someone else on their journey. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more Stoic wisdom. Together, let's continue building lives of purpose, clarity, and strength. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are worthy of respect, starting with the respect you show yourself.